Imagine a boy, 10 years old. A heavy wooden collar is locked around his neck. It rubs his skin raw with every breath. He is starving. He is alone. He is hunted like an animal by the very people who should have protected him. Flies buzz around his face, but he cannot swat them away because his hands are bound. He is waiting to die in the freezing winds of Mongolia. This boy is a nobody, an outcast, a slave. But in 40 years, this same boy will own half the world. He will crush empires that have stood for thousands of years. He will kill so many people that the carbon dioxide levels of the earth will actually drop. He will become a god of war, worshipped and feared in equal measure. History knows him as the Great Khan. But before he was a conqueror, he was just Temujin. And his story begins not with a victory, but with a murder. Mongolia in the 12th century was hell on earth. It was a place where strength was the only law. Temujin was born clutching a blood clot in his fist, a sign, the shamans said, that he would be a great warrior. But destiny seemed to have a cruel sense of humor. When he was 9, his father, a tribal chief, was poisoned by rival Tartars. In any civilized society, the tribe would support the grieving widow and her children. But the steppes were not civilized. The tribe saw them as too many mouths to feed. So they left. They packed their yurts, rounded up their horses, and rode away. They left Temujin, his mother, and his siblings to die in the winter. They were forced to survive on wild onions, rotting carcasses, and mice. But the hunger wasn't the worst part. The worst part was the fear. Temujin's older half-brother, Begter, began to hoard food. He started bullying the younger children, asserting dominance. In the brutal logic of the steppes, Begter was becoming a threat. One afternoon, Begter stole a fish that Temujin had caught. It was a small thing, a meaningless fish. But to Temujin, it was the final straw. He didn't yell. He didn't cry. He and his younger brother Khasar silently stalked Begter. They approached him from two sides as he sat on a small hill. Begter saw them. He didn't run. He simply said, "Do not kill me. I am not your enemy." Temujin didn't listen. He drew his bow and fired. Dead silence. At an age when modern children are learning long division, Temujin murdered his own brother. This is the moment the boy died, and the Khan was born. He learned a lesson that would define his entire life. Mercy is a luxury. Survival is a choice. But a man cannot conquer the world alone. He needs allies. And Temujin found one in a young aristocrat named Jamuka. They were inseparable. They swore an oath of blood brotherhood, Anda. They exchanged gifts, a knucklebone and an arrowhead. They promised to be closer than brothers, to share one soul. It was the only time in his life Temujin truly trusted someone outside his family. But as they grew, a crack formed. Jamuka believed in the old ways, aristocracy, birthright, nobility. You are born a leader, or you are born a follower. Temujin believed in something radical, meritocracy. He didn't care who your father was. He didn't care if you were a shepherd or a slave. If you were loyal, and if you could fight, you had a place at his table. People started flocking to Temujin. Servants left their masters to join him. Jamuka grew jealous. The brotherhood turned into a rivalry. The rivalry turned into war. And in their first major battle, Jamuka crushed Temujin. But Jamuka made a mistake. To celebrate his victory, he boiled 70 of Temujin's generals alive in cauldrons. He thought this would terrify the steppes into submission. He was wrong. It horrified them. It proved to everyone that the old ways were cruel and broken. Temujin retreated, licked his wounds, and learned. He realized that to win, he had to break the very structure of Mongol society. Temujin returned not just with an army, but with a machine. He reorganized his entire society. He abolished tribal loyalty. He created the Arban, a squad of 10 men. They ate together, slept together, and fought together. If one man ran from battle, the other 9 were executed. Loyalty was no longer to the tribe. Loyalty was to the unit, and the unit's loyalty was to Temujin. He introduced another revolutionary rule: no looting until the battle is won. In the past, nomads would stop fighting to plunder the enemy camp, allowing the enemy to escape. Temujin forbade it. All loot would be gathered and distributed equally after the victory. With this disciplined force, he faced Jamuka one last time. It wasn't a battle. It was an execution. Jamuka was captured. Temujin offered his old friend forgiveness. He offered to restore their brotherhood, but Jamuka looked at him and said, "There is only room for one sun in the sky." He asked for a noble death, to be killed without spilling blood. Temujin obliged. He had Jamuka's back broken. It was 1206. The steppes were silent. The wars were over. Temujin was proclaimed Genghis Khan, the universal ruler. But the steppes were too small for his ambition. He looked south, toward the golden cities of China. The world outside Mongolia saw the Mongols as savages, barbarians on ponies. They had no idea what was coming. Genghis Khan attacked the Jin dynasty of China, a civilization vastly superior in technology and numbers. The Jin had millions of soldiers. Genghis had less than 100,000. But the Mongols had speed. They could ride for days without stopping, drinking their horses' blood to survive. And they adapted. When they encountered walled cities, they didn't turn back. They captured Chinese engineers and learned how to build catapults. They weaponized terror. If a city surrendered, they were spared. If they resisted, everyone died. But the most brutal chapter of his life was yet to come. Genghis Khan actually wanted trade, not war, with the West. He sent a caravan to the Khwarezmian Empire, modern-day Iran-Uzbekistan, to open a trade route. The governor of a border town, suspecting them of being spies, seized the goods and killed the merchants. Genghis Khan gave them one chance. He sent 3 ambassadors to the Sultan, demanding justice. The Sultan shaved the beards of 2 ambassadors and beheaded the 3rd. He had just signed his own death warrant. Genghis Khan didn't just invade, he erased. He brought 200,000 horsemen west. "I am the flail of God," he reportedly said. "Had you not created great sins, God would not have sent a punishment like me upon you." They diverted rivers to wash away birthplaces. They burned libraries. They poured molten silver into the eyes and ears of the governor who started it all. It is said that the Mongols killed so many people in Nishapur that they built pyramids out of skulls. The Khwarezmian Empire didn't just fall, it ceased to exist in history. By 1227, Genghis Khan ruled from the Pacific Ocean to the Caspian Sea. But he was mortal. During a campaign against the Western Shia, he fell from his horse, internal injuries. The end was near. Even on his deathbed, he was ruthless. He ordered the extermination of the Western Shia people as his final command. When he died, his soldiers carried his body back to Mongolia. And here lies the final mystery. To this day, no one knows where he is buried. Legend says that the 2,000 soldiers who escorted his funeral cart killed anyone who saw them. Then, when they buried him, they trampled the ground with 1,000 horses to hide the spot. Then, another group of soldiers killed the burial party. And finally, they killed themselves. He wanted to vanish. Genghis Khan left behind a world transformed. He created the first international postal system. He established diplomatic immunity. He allowed freedom of religion centuries before the West. Because of him, a merchant could walk from Rome to Beijing with a gold plate on his head and never be robbed. The Pax Mongolica. But the price was rivers of blood, millions of lives extinguished. So, was he a monster? Or was he the architect of the modern world? History is written by the victors, but in this case, the victor wrote nothing. He just left us the world we live in. What do you think? Was the Pax Mongolica worth the cost? Let me know in the comments below. And if you want to know about the one general who actually defeated the Mongols, click this video right here. It's a story you won't believe. Don't forget to subscribe. See you in the next one.